Hello, my name is Johnny Ohenaba Perryman, and I thought I would just, say a few things that could help you in whatever your endeavors are. I took a course called Pursuit of Excellence, taught by Context Associates, and one of the main things they stress is always tell the truth under any circumstances, no matter what the situation. Always tell the truth. That doesn't mean that you have to tell everything you know. You might have to say it at times, I prefer not to answer that question. Or you may wish to comment on what you're ready to tell the truth on, but there's never a circumstance under which it is important to lie. Now, in my business life, and always telling the truth, what I found was that I worked with labor unions, and eventually, without me telling everybody that I always tell the truth, they just knew it. And so when I stood before them, give a speech or stood before them, make a report, no matter what it was, if I said it, they knew it was the truth. And if you put yourself in a position where everybody that you deal with know you're telling the truth, you're 1,000 steps ahead of someone that they're not sure about. You're way ahead of Donald Trump. But anyway, telling the truth is very important. Another thing that's important that a lot of people don't seem to understand is when you run into a problem, no matter what the problem is, you could walk into your kitchen and see someone have dropped an egg on your floor, or it could be a problem on the job. No matter what the problem is, if you accept accountability for it, instead of sitting there blaming this person or that person or whoever, accept accountability for it, you can solve the problem easily. I remember years ago, there was this one lady that I used to date, and I'd go to pick her up on time, and she wouldn't be there. And I remember one time I was there, and it was almost 100 degrees outside, and I was waiting for her, and it's hot as hell, and she finally showed up. And I realized that I couldn't depend on her to be punctual with a date. And so the next date we met at my house. That way I can sit at my house, relax, taking it easy, doing what I wanted to do. And when she showed up, well, then I'd throw on a coat or whatever, and we would go do whatever we were going to do. But I accepted accountability and I solved my problems. I could have sat there and said, well, she should do this or she should do that, and had the same problem. I was looking at all the problems we had in the world, and I realized from that training that once I accept accountability for any problem I ran into, my mind starts working differently and I can solve that problem. So I was looking at all the problems that we were having in the world, and I decided that I was going to accept accountability for it. And that's the Korean problems, nuclear bombs, wars everywhere, President Trump. I decided to accept accountability for it. And once you accept accountability, well, then your mind starts working differently. And things start coming to you that you never would have thought of. And what I did when I accepted accountability is I wrote a book, and I wrote a book with the formula to how to resolve the problems in the world. And when you write a book, uh, you can write the best book in the world, but nobody knows what's in it but you. Normally, even the people that publish your book don't even know what's in it. They haven't read it. And so, who knows to buy that book? So, but the book I wrote, if only 10 people bought it, it's on Amazon. If only 10 people bought it and followed what was in the book, I believe that would solve the problems of this world. And it doesn't make any difference if those 10 people started working on it tomorrow or if they started working on it 10 years from now. the book is out there. And I noticed once I wrote the book, a lot of the things that I wrote in the book, they have been mentioned on Facebook and other places. When you think of something and release it out to the universe will grab it and pick it up and do things with it. When you accept accountability, no matter how screwed up your boss is, no matter how screwed up the situation is, if you accept accountability, you can find solutions for it that you never would have thought of before. And rather than sitting there angry and concerned about a particular problem, you can fix it and put it behind you. So a very important part of it is accepting accountability. Now, everything that you do, if you go to a job interview, if you go to try to sell something to someone, whether it's an idea or a way of doing something on the job, you need certain tools to sell. And you're always selling whether you realize it or not. And if you walk into somebody's office and you walk into the office and see, well, like for instance, this lamp that's behind me in their office, ask them about the lamp and ask them if it's a Tiffany or a Tiffany design. And if you see paintings hanging on their wall, like I have paintings hanging on my wall all over the house. Ask them about the paintings on the wall. But what they have in their office are things that reflect something about them. And when you ask them about things that reflect something about them, they enjoy talking about it. And they feel a closer bond to you. And so you talk about it for a while. And then you reach a point where you ease in what you're trying to sell. And when you're trying to sell something, eventually their eyes will gloss over and you know they're not listening to you. And so you want to back off of that sale right away and you want to start talking about something else that they are interested in that you found out from talking to them or by looking around the office. And when you're talking to them, if they have their hands folded, have your hands folded. If they have one knee crossed over the other, cross one of your knees over the other. If you can see the rhythm in which they're breathing, breathe the same rhythm that they're breathing. And what happens eventually is they identify with you. They feel at one with you. And you reach a point where it's a lot easier to sell whatever it is you're trying to sell. Another thing that I've always tried to tell people is be the smartest one in the room. Like I went to board meetings well, I've been to several different board meetings. One for the Health Benefit Trust, one for the Pension Trust, and for a labor union. And we asked the attorney to bring us 5 changes to 5 different parts of the bylaws. And so we meet once every 3 months. And so we told the attorney to work on it, and we come back 3 months later. Now I know what happened. The attorney had 3 months to do it, and so he procrastinated. The night before the board meeting, he jumped up and worked real hard and made 5 changes to the bylaws. When he brought it to the board meeting, I wouldn't be surprised if he hadn't even read his own changes. And so he said he made the changes, and it's up to the board to vote on it, and the board wanted to vote. And I said, wait a minute. I said, let me read the changes first. They thought that I was wasting their time. I read the changes, and there was things just wrong with them. And I pointed out the things that was wrong with 3 of the changes. And so the attorney said he was going to change that. And then the 4th one that I pointed out what was wrong with that one, the attorney, well, he was sort of disgusted by then and angry at me for critiquing his work that way. And it was uh, that fourth one was something where someone could take advantage of the health benefit trust, and they could get $8 million out of the trust. And the attorney said, "Well, that would never happen. You don't have to worry about that." And I told the attorney that's not true, because if we leave that language in the trust, I'm going to resign from this board today, and I'm going to start my own insurance company, and I'm going to get that $8 million. You should have seen how quick they worked on changing that language. I was in a place where I was doing a mortgage insurance for a house that I sold, and they came up with a stack of papers to sign. They said, "Sign this paper, this paper, this paper, this paper, this paper." And I said, "Oh yeah, okay, but let me read it first." Now, no one's ever read those before. The person that brought the papers to me had never read them before. And they looked at this black man and thought, he don't know what he's doing, he's just wasting my time. And so I read through all those pages of legal documents, and I pointed out 2 typos that they made, which changed the language of what they were trying to say, and they were actually typos in my favor. I showed those to the woman that had me. She jumped up, grabbed the papers, and jumped up, ran into the other room to her boss, and she was showing them to him and talking about it. Now, they were giving the same papers to everybody to come in there and sign, and everybody's papers was wrong. But I was the only one that ever read it. Now, when I went to buy a car, you have certain writing on the front side of these papers, on the front of these papers, and you sign on the front. And when you sign on the front, you're saying also you agree to what's on the back. On the back is some faded writing. I read that writing and realized that through that writing I was giving up my warranty. And so I crossed out some things on that contract, and I told them, I says, "I'll sign it with these things crossed out." And they said, "Well, it's a standard contract, we can't do that." I says, "Okay, I'll go buy a car from someone that can." And I got up to walk out, he caught up with me, and he let me sign it with those things crossed out. But what happens if you are, like I received books on how to be a success in life. I didn't just read it once. I didn't just read it 2 times. I read it 4 or 5 times till I was the expert. And so when you read things enough time and you become the smartest person in the room, when you sit on a board, I was sitting on the board of the merger between King County and Metro in the state of Washington, which was a $25 billion merger, and I was the smartest person in the room. If I made a suggestion of what they could do or what they could not do, they listened to me and they did it. And every board that I sat on, I was the smartest person in the room because I read everything that was there, and I read it several times. When I was negotiating contracts for labor unions, I knew everything in the contract. As a matter of fact, most of the contracts we had with the unions, I wrote it myself. And people would try to break the contract, but they couldn't break it. They tried to find loopholes. They couldn't find loopholes because I wrote it myself. Labor management from a company came to me and said, "Yeah, but according to this language, we can do this, this, and this." And I said, "Okay, turn to page 23 and read paragraph 7. And then he would read that, then he would shut his mouth. I wrote that, and I knew exactly what was in it. And so anytime you're in a situation where you sign a contract or dealing with legal affairs, if you read everything, but not just once, but 2 or 3 times, and some of the books, like I recommend reading Creative Visualization, read that book about 10 times, become the smartest person in the room. Now, when you're the smartest person in the room, and you accept accountability for every problem that you run into, and when you always tell the truth, eventually everybody you're dealing with will know that. Everybody you're dealing with will listen to you, and everybody you're dealing with will believe it. And so I just wanted to lay those things out there today. And I think you may have noticed that whenever I make these videos, I'm never reading what I'm saying. I try to know what I'm going to say. I was thinking of things to say while I was talking, thinking of things to talk about while I was talking, and going back to things that I've read several times. And so I hope this did you some good. I want to thank you for listening and have a nice, nice day.